Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards, fire up your fingers, and come join the conversation. Hey everybody out there on the YouTubes. No, this isn't Friday. This is in fact Sunday, July 12th, 2020. But you are watching The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second. Couldn't quite do it on Friday night. Excuse me. I was going to be taking some training on Saturday, but ended up having to stay up all night with the sick person in the house, so I didn't make it to my training either. So, yeah. But anyhow, Rich decided that Rich White, I think it's This Week Unloaded, decided that he wasn't going to do his show at this time slot because this is his usual time slot. So I figured, you know what? I'll pick up the slack and slide right into the spot. So that's why we're here tonight instead of a couple days ago. Before we get going, I'd like to thank my esteemed panel, as always. First up, we have Roll Call 219. How you doing, sir?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Here you've been having a little bit of a wildlife problem at the Roll Call estate.
Raccoons are terrible creatures, and they need to stay away from me.
They're so cute, though.
Then you can have them.
No, thank you. I'm hillbilly enough they'd end up in my freezer. We also have with us tonight the irascible yet lovable Squibload. How you doing, sir?
Hopefully not as echoey as earlier.
No, I'm not hearing anything coming back at me this time, so that's cool. Cool. Speaking of cool, I'd like to say hello to everybody out there in the chat. We got Gun Loving Grandpa was first out there. Mike Warhorse in the house. Says he's finally getting to catch one live. Sam of Anarchy's out there. Defense Dad is there. Mystic Guns. Hello, everybody. Let's see. Defense Dad wants to know, so if this is about ghost guns, is Scooby-Doo and his gang going to stop by? I don't know. They might. Clint Torres is out there. Speaking of ghost, say his name and he appears. So Ghost Tactical's out there in the chat. Got New York Outcast. Ozzy Osbourne barking at the moon. Who else? Screaming Skull Saloon says he had 7 raccoons in his yard last night. Justin. Justin must be a new person to the chat. Hello, Justin. Welcome. G23 says, hey, y'all. How are you? Justin, this is a show called The Right of the People. I like to say that it's where we use the first to defend the second. We talk about Second Amendment related news, current events, and other topics that kind of attach to the gun world. It is not just a one-way street where I talk and you guys listen like you would get on radio or TV or podcasting. Given that this is on YouTube, it is a two-way street. It's a conversation. Not only do I discuss things with my esteemed panel members, but I also talk to you guys down in the chat. I think that's the great thing about this medium is if you have something to say, if you have something to contribute to the conversation, please join the conversation. That goes for those of you who might be watching this on replay. Leave something down in the chat if you have an opinion. Not the chat, but the comments below if you have an opinion, because I check them, I read them, and I try to respond to them. So, again, it's this engagement that I like. Who else is out there? Let's see. Todd the Gun Guy's in the house.
Todd the Gun Guy.
And yeah, I think that's everybody that has said something so far. So, let your voice be heard, folks, out there in the chat. Well, there's some things to talk about this week. Hi, Gabe Stark. How you doing? There's some things to talk about this week. Excuse me. Just what do I feel about talks regarding defunding the police? I think it's asinine. And I'm pretty sure we'll get to that at some point today as well, truth be told. Let me cycle through my stuff here. Are we going to get onto that? Maybe, maybe not. No, actually, we're not going to talk about that, but we might, depending upon what sort of time we got. It's not actually on my agenda. But I think it's asinine. We need police. So, first up, ghost guns. It seems that some wonderful people in Congress have introduced a bill that would ban them. But not only ban ghost guns, but any piece of machinery that can make ghost guns. So, your drill press, your power drill, you got a CNC machine at home, you even have a lathe. Shoot, honestly, really all I need to make a gun is a hacksaw and a cordless drill. You know, if I wanted to make a slam fire pipe gun. So, you know, shoot, files. Anything like that could potentially be banned. We'll talk about it. But first, before we go into it, I want to say hello to the one, the only, the kingpin himself, David Bowling. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, man. Glad that you had a show tonight, and happy that you sent me an invite. Glad to be here, man.
Hey, you are always welcome, my brother. That's why you get those invites. Hey, Steven, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, I've been watching the replays. It's just I haven't been able to stay up late. It's work and all kinds of stuff going on. So thank you for sending them to me, and you've been doing a great job. So I'm just glad I could join you tonight.
Dude, life comes first. You know, you're never going to insult me by not coming on this dumpster fire. But I'm glad you did show up. All right, let's go ahead and dive into this. This is a piece from guns.com from 7620 by Chris Egger. Congress looking to ban ghost gun, quote unquote, machinery. Democrats on Capitol Hill have introduced a bill championed by anti-gun advocates to strictly regulate machines designed for the manufacturing of firearm frames or receivers. The measure, titled the Stop Home Manufacture of Ghost Guns Act of 2020, would ban ownership of what the bill terms a firearms manufacturing device unless the tool is in the hands of a federally licensed firearm maker or of a business that produces such machines for use by FFLs. Confusingly, the broad new definition to be added to federal code would place the regulation on a device designed or redesigned, made or remade, and intended to be used primarily to make or convert a product into a frame or receiver for a firearm, and any combination of parts designed or intended for use in making such a device. While it could be argued by the bill's sponsors that the measure is aimed at high-profile desktop milling machines like the Ghost Gunner and similar devices, it should be pointed out that there are dozens of different brands of hobbyist-level mini CNC machines for sale both online and at hardware outlet chains such as Harbor Freight that can be used in an array of metal and polymer fabrication work to include producing firearms frames or receivers. This suggests the bill's sponsors may not be aware of what they are trying to accomplish, or worse, are being coy with the scope of the legislation. Moreover, such mills are not even needed in many cases. A variety of 20th century firearms, such as stun guns and the Ludi SMG, were specifically designed to be crafted in garage-level workshops with simple hand tools. Guns such as the AK have had their receivers made from a shovel in recent years. Today, a host of commercially available 3D printers can produce a range of polymer or, through metal sintering, aluminum firearm frames. These plans are widely shared. Further, while NFA rules apply to home-built guns, firearms outside the NFA restrictions can legally be made by anyone who can possess them under the law. With that being said, it is unsure just what a firearms manufacturing device may be under the proposed bill, a definition that could be far in scope and, like most gun control regulations, have little actual effect on crime. Nonetheless, the bill's backers are sure that they are on the right track when it comes to adding a new law to the books. It is time for Congress to ban ghost guns and the flourishing traffic in the technology which manufactures them, said the bill's sponsor, U.S. Representative Jamie Raskin, a Maryland Democrat publicly endorsed by Everytown last week. Everytown plans to spend $60 million on the 2020 elections. The bill, entered as H.R. 7468 and referred to the Democrat House Committee on the Judiciary, also has the fast support of Giffords. We must stop the proliferation of these easy-to-make, untraceable guns that can be obtained with no background check, Adzi Vukina, Giffords' Federal Affairs Director, contends. Clamping down on the milling machines that make it virtually effortless to create an arsenal of untraceable weapons from a basement or garage is a good place to start. And don't you love the deliberately incendiary language that they use? There's another article on this we're going to touch on before I open this to the floor. This is from the Firearms Policy Coalition. Oppose H.R. 7468, the home build ban. Summary: bans all homemade guns, criminalizes possession of firearm manufacturing devices. Representative Raskin has introduced one of the most overreaching ghost gun bills in modern history. The H.R. 7468 would ban the possession of any firearms manufacturing device, including CNC mills, 3D printers, etc. Under this legislation, only those with a manufacturing license would avoid prison time. However, this absurd bill, good God, I can't speak today. However, this absurd bill goes a step farther by defining a firearm manufacturing machine as A device designed or redesigned, made or remade, and intended to be used primarily to make or convert a product into a frame or receiver for a firearm, and B, any combination of parts designed or intended for use in making a device described in subparagraph A and from which such a device may be readily assembled. In other words, H.R. 7468 could turn you into a felon for owning just about anything the government claims could be used to make a firearm. So unless you want the ATF carting you off to prison for owning a power drill, you need to take immediate action to oppose this sweeping anti-gun bill. Please use the Take Action form below to contact Raskin and his fellow representatives. Tell them you oppose H.R. 7468, and I will shoot this link out there in the chat if you folks want to do so. Please, my wonderful panel, discuss.
Jamie Raskin, unfortunately, is the representative of my district. And
this is all your fault, Kingpin. Every last bit of it.
Gosh. I could, if I knew how to computer better, I'd do a video with all the emails that he responds, because I email him probably twice a month.
Good, you should.
Sometimes I'm a little political. Sometimes I'm a little frustrated. But no matter what I send him, he always sends me the same exact email back. Thank you for your concern. We're going to look into your thought. So he's just this guy is an absolute monster.
Absolutely right. What do you think of this pile of garbage, Ro?
It's just another example of politicians not doing their job. Instead of helping their communities and, expanding on the welfare of their citizens, they're trying to ban power tools. It's ridiculous. This is the same things that we've gone through. We've heard ghost guns before. We've heard the term before. The manufacturing of firearms has always been under fire. At one point, remember, they're going to ban that you couldn't build a firearm out of a parts kit.
Yep.
Things of that nature. This just shows that these people aren't really, designed to take on the real issues in their community, which would be policing, economics, things of that nature. They're just solely just hell-bent on banning stuff to either put their name out there or just, take firearms away. I mean, what are you going to do with places that repair firearms and they have these machinery technologies in their midst? I mean, this is the same old song and dance. This is why instead of focus on
the robots got you.
Sunglasses or coolers, you focus on stripping these people of their power, kicking them out of office, and do your vetting and put somebody in there that's going to fight for your rights.
Squib, do you have an opinion upon this?
Well, here's the thing. These aren't hardly ever used in crime. So why is it even an issue? Why are they even wasting their time and our time even talking about this? If these things were used in 20% of crimes, 50% of crimes, okay, then I could see them saying we need to do something. It's that whole spirit of the law kind of thing. But because these things they're used about as often as suppressors, right? If even that much. And that's not saying a lot because there's like 3 crimes a year committed with a suppressor. It's a non-issue. Yeah, they're looking for something. Instead of doing what we elected them to do, they're looking for something to do.
The really sketchy part about it is the banning, talking about banning power drills and Dremels and stuff like that. Obviously, they can't do that. But what they can do is when they get a reason to come inside your house or pull you over and they see you have a gun and a Dremel, well, now you're going to get charged with it. It's shady, underhanded charges that they're trying to push on people.
Well, and again, gun control is never about the gun. It's always about the control. Every single time. I've said it over and over again, and I'll probably end up saying it over and over again, too. You know, gun control is never about the gun. It's always about the control, folks. And that's what this is. You know, they know that if they ban firearms, well, you know, that genie's out of the bottle. People know how to make them. People will make them. It happens all over the world. You know, if you can't buy the gun, you build the gun. That's just how it is. You know, some third world countries have a cottage industry of making guns in their garages. The Philippines being one. They have a strong culture and tradition of making homemade firearms, and some of them are quite good. So they know that if they say you can't have it and you really want it, you're just going to make it anyway. And they want to make that as difficult as possible. Thus, they want to get rid of that type of machinery in private hands.
Well, they also build it up, like the way you were reading that article, talking about mass producing guns. Who's got thousands of dollars to buy a giant chunk of plastic and have it cut into pieces and then mill it out into an AR-15 load? That's not happening. Like maybe one guy will buy one chunk of plastic and make his own gun.
Yeah.
But you got to think about the scale and the cost and the labor involved in mass producing. I'm making air quotes with my fingers. Guns. Come on.
Well, here's the thing. Really, you could make an AR lower. You could cobble one up out of sheet steel and a welder and a file and a drill. That's it. You could weld one up. It doesn't have to be milled from aluminum. You could weld it up out of steel. I've seen it. You know, all you have to have is the correct inside dimensions and the correct locations of the holes and whatnot. Not that complicated. So for these people to believe that they're doing something like this, you know, again, it's never about crime. They say it is, but it's not. It goes back to gun control is never about the gun. It's always about the control. Let's see what they're saying out in the chat about this. Mike Warhorse is like, wait, the tools as well? Yeah, the tools as well. Warsaw Patriot says people can make a gun from bed frame spring and steel pipes, aka the Sten gun. Screaming Skull Saloon says fret cutters banned? Yeah. Blue Steel 44, one of my favorite YouTube programs. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Sandpaper Dremel tools banned? Oh, dang. LOL. A-Dubs says, back in the day, couldn't one basically build a Sten gun from parts in a bike shop? Yep. You can still in your basement if you really want to. Let's see. Milling machines, hand drills, and pliers, says James Pellerin. Mike Warhorse says, maybe unaware of what they're speaking of. Big surprise. Yeah, but I think they're well aware of what they're doing. And they're doing it on purpose. Let's see, where am I at? I know I'm... Warsaw Patriot says he's even seen AR lowers made out of wood. So, yes, that's must keep the commoners in the dark.
I mean, I know that it is what it is, but the life card is a gun.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop progress.
Nope.
I mean, there's a credit card gun.
Yep.
And it's effective. I mean, it works. And I don't know how effective it is, but it works.
Well, from 3-4 feet, they get you.
They're not going to be.
Look at the Liberator in World War II. I mean, that thing was a completely inaccurate piece of junk, and they dropped them into occupied France by the thousands, and the whole point was to get up close and pop the bad guy in the head and take their real gun. You know, you can make the same sort of thing for the same sort of reason now in your freaking basement. You know, shoot, hold on 1 second. This right here, these 2 pipes, and a pipe cap, and a drill, and a nail, or a screw, is all I need to make a gun. That's it. Not hard to do, folks.
Blue Steel just found the loophole. He says, honest question, but is the high point actually a gun? I say no, can't be banned.
I say yes, it is a gun. There's been plenty of people whacked with a high point. Mike Warhorse says, now we're in trouble. Gun-loving grandpa, and I've seen this video too, says, I've seen a video of a guy melting aluminum drink cans down and made his own lower. Yep. Can be done. I saw a video where a guy glued some cutting boards together and milled out a lower out of that. Can be done. G-Web says, which, by the way, hello G-Webs, how you doing? Says, when the antis find out you can make an effective 9mm gun out of paper mache, they'll freak out. Well, paper mache, really? That's a new one on me, but I'm sure it could work. He says, do we gotta alert YouTube now, or like 80% alert them? He told us how to make the things he was holding into a gun. I just said what I needed. I didn't say how to do it. Although, given that all you need is a hacksaw, a drill, a screw, and a pipe cap. Oh, James Pellerin says, only the money dollar bill, y'all, high point is a gun. You might be right. Yeah. So, you know, there you have it, folks. They are, you know, they're at it again, trying to ban the evil, scary ghost gun. Jeremy Lanham points out, heck, potato guns can cause all kinds of damage and don't need much in making it. Absolutely right. So there you go, folks. They're trying it again, and we got to be on them. On to the next thing. Back in a week or two ago, I showed the first episode of a series that Voice of America is doing on gun owners in America. That was the one that entitled Common Ground on Guns. We had the what a lot of people are saying are FUDs, the professor and her buddy, who owned guns but weren't really pro 2A at all. There's another episode in that series out, and it happens to be the one with yours truly in it. Back in October of 2019, the reporter from Voice of America came to my home range, and we did some footage there of me shooting, and went into our clubhouse at our sportsman's club and interviewed me. Then a few days later, he met me at the 2A Rally for Our Rights, the Rally for Your 2A Rights, for which G-Webs created this spiffy-ass patch in Washington, D.C., and he did some more follow-up interviews with me there. That's finally out, and, well, I reckon we're going to go ahead and watch it. at risk of being a self-promoting whore. Although I don't think there's much risk. I'm well into that territory. You never know when, at any second, something might happen that you might need it. That's the point. It's not that you think it's going to, it's that you recognize the possibility that it can. You recognize the possibility that there are evil people in the world who do evil things, and you have to be able to protect yourself against that.
I think I'm an average gun owner because I mean, I'm an average guy. I mean, there's nothing really special about me. From an early age, Dad would go out hunting. I went with him. You know, I was always in the woods with him shooting, and, you know, at the range shooting, and, you know, that's just, it was a way of life. We're going to the Minerva Sportsman's Club, a local range that I'm a member of.
You notice how this asshole just had to wear his own freaking merch during this, right? Gee, what a self-promoting whore.
This is my AR-15 pistol, Hungarian AK-47, Marlin Model 60 22 rifle, Heritage Rough Rider, a US-made rifle that's kind of a cross between an AK-47 and an AR-15. Spanish police pistol, SKS rifle, little Taurus TX-22, Ruger Mini 14. I own more than a dozen firearms and less than I want. Well, for several different reasons. Like any other tool, specific firearms are for specific purposes. I have rifles that are just simply strictly for accuracy, to try to put holes in a piece of paper far away. I have firearms for hunting. The majority of my firearms, though, are for defensive purposes. Over a period of years. That's what most people do. They get one here, then they get one there, then they get another one, and sometimes they tell the wife, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just, oh no, I've had that one for a while. Yeah, don't you remember I bought that back then? That's right.
I'm surprised I didn't get in trouble
this
for
is
that.
Jason's
I'm surprised I didn't get in trouble for that because she has watched this. So,
Spoon. He's a friend of mine and a firearms instructor. His family runs the local gun shop here in town. What'd you bring with us today?
I brought a duty pistol and a Golden Boy.
Nice. Classic. Yeah, I think between all of us, we have some pretty good representations of what kind of stuff people own around here.
Yeah.
All right, let's go get some targets.
it was a freaking downpour that day.
It's wonderful if you're a duck. It's it's horrible downpour, but you know, I don't really mind shooting at it once in a while because you can't always pick when you might have to shoot.
I practice shooting with my firearms at least once a week. I try to get to the range as much as I can. Shooting is a perishable skill. If you don't practice, you lose proficiency. Given that I carry a firearm with me everywhere that I'm lawfully able, I feel it's incumbent upon me as a responsible person to be proficient with that firearm, because anytime that you press the trigger, you're responsible for what happens. I think that the vast majority of gun owners are responsible people. If the 350 million firearms that are out there were the problem, and if the 150 million gun owners were not responsible, those hundreds of millions of weapons would be put to use far more than the ones that are already misused.
Maybe it's a little different in the big cities where if you need help, help might be closer away. Here, we have massive response times. If you need help, it's on you to provide that help for your friends, your family. Police, they're 15 minutes away because they're covering an entire county.
We grew up, if the car broke, you fixed it. If the electric was out, you fixed it. If the power company quit, you had a wood stove. I mean, all of this stuff. And a gun was just the last tool in a whole line of tools that you used, right? And it's rooted in self-sufficiency.
To demonize the tool. It's not the tool that kills, it's the person. When I hear about these atrocities that happen, when the mass shootings, Parkland, Dayton, El Paso, and I hear the backlash from the media and from politicians saying that if we had less guns, if people didn't have guns, they wouldn't be able to do things like this. I have to answer that the opposite is true. While it's not a guarantee that the good guy will stop the bad guy, I can tell you one thing. There's a lot better chance of stopping that from happening if he's there than if he isn't. People who want to curtail our Second Amendment rights have wasted no opportunity to exploit any tragedy or atrocity that happens. I see no reason to believe that that strategy wouldn't continue. I'm going to Washington, D.C. this weekend because I want to have my voice heard. And I want to have my voice heard not just for myself, but for my kids, for my grandkids. We're all coming here to let the politicians that work in that building up there, let them understand our rights aren't negotiable. They're not for sale. They're not to be traded away for political advantage. They're ours, and we intend to keep them.
Guns are the teeth of liberty that protect our rights and keep men and women free from tyranny and oppression.
Yes!
We allow those that are against us to undermine.
Look at those shady characters back there. Did you see them?
The republic is for nothing.
I believe that we're not at the point in history where we would have to rise up in armed rebellion against our government. We're not there. Our government is not a tyranny. Because right now we don't have tyranny doesn't mean that it can't transform into tyranny easily. That's why I think it's still important for us to maintain our Second Amendment rights as a guarantee against our government. I think what people don't understand about most average, everyday gun owners is that we're just that.
All right, folks, let's see if this brings us back up. I don't know if it will, but yeah, hopefully. I don't know if I have to go to a new stream or not. I really hope I don't. Wait, it looks like I might be back. Holy crap, I am. Defense Dad, I already did a whole lot of cussing. You could believe that. Thankfully that everything was off when I was doing all that cussing, because I do try to maintain this as a family-friendly show. Yeah, because there were some non-family friendly words coming out of my mouth. A faux show. God, how annoying was that? I heartily and heavily apologize, everybody. I'm sure I've lost just about everyone who was watching this dumpster fire. It went down into a smolder, but now the flames have reignited. Hopefully, hopefully people check back. If not, show must go on, and we're going to keep going on. I appreciate the ones that stuck around, Wow. You must really be thirsty for entertainment on a Sunday night to be sticking around through that. God. Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened. My internet just completely died. I had to reboot my router and all that other crap. So I was less than enthusiastic about what happened. How much duct tape, baling wire, and WD-40 did you have to use? If duct tape, baling wire, and WD-40 are comprised of F-bombs, a whole lot. No sound. No, I got sound. No sound. Yeah, I've got sound. No, I got sound. No sound. Bob says the liberal checked in and insert conspiracy theory. That's it. It was your fault, Bob. You did this to me. You did it on purpose, too. Wow. G23 says, I left and watched a different video, then checked back. Cool. James Pellerin says, sound good, no video. Well, I've got video. I'm seeing video cut because I'm watching it on my laptop as well. So, yeah. Well, let's try this again. Let me pull up. First off, let me put that down. I sent my links back out. So if anybody wants to hop on that has a link, please feel free. There's Squib came back. So technical difficulties got me. Full show. James Pellerin said he was worried the feds got me. No, it wasn't the feds. It was just the technicals that got the hell out of me there. So, yeah. Well, you guys want to go back through that video again? Or the last half of the video? Or what do you guys want to do?
It was almost over. It was almost over. I mean, you got right to where you were pointing out the gun channels people in DC, and that's where it cut out. So, I mean, can you roll it back or?
Yeah, I sure can. Let me.
While you're doing that, can I make a statement about your comment about yourself at the beginning of the video?
Which one?
The one about the self-promoting guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I know you were just being funny, and if we can't make fun of ourselves, who can we make fun of? But I'd like to say something about the people that promote their junk on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay, I see some of you guys out there, you promote your junk, and then I go to your store, and it's out of stock. Or I go to the store, and it's a $5 item, and you want $50 for it. Or the item you show in your video is the prototype, and the production one isn't like that. So the prototype is nice and embroidered, but the production one is a cheap iron-on. Another thing is when people give you suggestions for stuff and you go, oh, I don't want to do that, or that's going to cost too much money, and then you turn around and complain, nobody ever buys anything out of my store. Well, we suggested things that we wanted to buy, but you don't want to, you have to spend money to make money, people. So there's, and then finally, the people who say, buy my shit, and never in their live stream, never on their videos, do you ever see them wearing or using anything that they sell at all. And I'm like, well, if you won't even wear this shirt, why would I buy it? If you're not going to drink out of this coffee cup, why would I buy it? You know, if you're not going to do a cooking video where you use the oven mitt and the apron that's in your Teespring store, why would I buy it? So I think that you did just fine by, you know, having your logo out there, and you do show your patch. That's the real deal. It's a real embroidered Velcro patch. You know, I mean, I've seen some people that show a patch and then you get it and it's smaller, or you get it and it's flimsy. But on camera, the thing looks, you know, bright and all that. You know, you get it, it's faded, whatever. I mean, your stuff is really your stuff, and I'd like to see some more channels do that. And some people might go, I'm selling it to make money. I can't even afford to buy my own stuff. If you can't afford to buy your own stuff, don't ask me to buy it. There's my rant about self-promoting.
Okay. So let me get through let's go back.
Rise up
Let's go
in
back
armed
to here.
rebellion against our government. We're not there. Our government is not a tyranny. Because right now we don't have tyranny, doesn't mean that it can't transform into tyranny easily. That's why I think it's still important for us to maintain our Second Amendment rights as a guarantee against our government. I think what people don't understand about most average, everyday gun owners is that we're just that. We're average every day. We're doctors, we're lawyers, we're judges, we're magistrates, we're firefighters, cops, factory workers, mechanics. We're people.
Shady.
Are not the
I was obnoxious and
paranoid
Sarge.
gun nut. Government ain't gonna come take my guns. That's not us. Now, granted, there are always
Oh, you know what?
examples of.
I just realized you guys can't see this.
I think
What a
people
dumbass.
don't understand about most.
Hold on a minute.
average,
I'm still
everyday-
stuck in freaking technical diddly. And I'm getting... No. What the... No. I don't want to hear Yankee. What the hell? Shut up. No.
It
Don't
went
tell me
right to your
that.
favorite channel automatically. Got it saved up there in your tab there, your favorites.
Dude.
Yankee Marshall all day, every day.
No. I forgot to swap this back to my topics view back to what it should be. Uh-oh. Well, now my laptop is disconnected on my Wi-Fi. So let's see if my Ethernet still stays connected.
Are you going to include a link to it in the description after you post the show
Yes.
the video? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, spoiler alert, I already watched it, so, but, you know,
Yeah.
I was just doing my homework.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi disconnected. Let's see how long my Ethernet lasts. All right, now let's try this yet again. So we'll go back to
Have tyranny doesn't mean that it can't transform into tyranny easily. That's why I think it's still important for us to maintain our Second Amendment rights as a guarantee against our government. I think what people don't understand about most
There's a back of Obnoxious's
everyday
head.
gun owners is that we're just that. We're average every day. We're doctors, we're lawyers, we're judges, we're magistrates, we're firefighters, cops, factory workers, mechanics. We're people. We are not the paranoid gun nut. Government ain't gonna come take my guns. That's not us. Now, granted, there are always examples of that sort of thing, just as there are examples on the other side of the, hold hands, kumbaya, hippy-dippy liberal types. But that's not everybody. We're just people. We want to be left alone. We don't want to be held responsible for the crimes of someone else. We want to live our lives, and as long as we don't harm anybody, just be left alone.
Our republic, our Constitution, and our Second Amendment.
Good glob. Okay, now that we finally made, I think that's what it is. Somebody didn't want us watching this tonight. That's just all it is. The damn government didn't want us to watch this because last time, yeah, all we saw was the FUDs. Now we got to see at least a somewhat pro, well, not more than somewhat pro gun. So, okay. Are we even still here? Are you guys here, Squib and Roe?
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like we're still playing out there in the chat on the YouTubes. So that's good. Bob says, witness the power. Yeah, pretty much. All right. So, do you guys think that I gave an accurate portrayal of who we as gun owners are? Or was I completely off base?
I'm glad it was you and not some of these other characters on YouTube. I mean, there's some people out there, they mean well, or they're just in it for the compensation, and the Second Amendment is second mission there for them. And yeah. I mean, yeah, you did have, your logo and stuff out there, but there would have been other people trying to turn it into a commercial for their merch store. There would have been other people that maybe wouldn't have tried to present it in a way, you're like the average, gun pro Second Amendment guy in one regard, but on the other hand, you're not, because of all the other things that you do that go above and beyond. But I guess you haven't forgotten, because you still kind of, carry on your life like you're not Mr. Big Shot, at least not yet. When you get there, don't worry, I'll give you lots of crap over it.
Okay.
So I thought you were very even as far as your representation. You weren't too far one way, you weren't too far another. You weren't apologetic, you weren't boisterous. You were just. I think a lot of different people in the Second Amendment community could look at what you said and go, I can get behind that. That's just my opinion.
What do you think, Ro?
It was a good piece.
Bob says, you did okay, though you hid your crazy well. Well, I've got practice at hiding my crazy, dude.
If he had a couple Polar Pops before the interview, he could have been, wound up.
Yeah, that's it. M. Gabriel says, miscellaneous technical difficulties weekly with budget. Yeah, no kidding. Defense Dad says, at least it didn't revert to porn or something. Yeah, well, yeah. That would have been embarrassing. Let's see. Elo says, gun owners come in all sorts of flavors. What, you been eating gun owners? Dude. I hear most gun owners taste like pork. Speaking of gun owners, recently we've had a, I hesitate to use the phrase poster children, but, there are some who've tried to make them into poster children. There's certainly the latest meme subjects, the cul-de-sac commandos, the Ken and Karen, the St. Louis couple, the McCloskeys, who, for those of you who haven't been paying any attention at all, the McCloskeys are the couple in St. Louis that had a mob of protesters barge into their gated community, their private property, and Bob says liberals taste like tofu. I'm not even going to go there. Anyhow, James says, yeah, you know what, James, you're right. I need to shoot a link out there first before I go any further with this story. Thank you for reminding me, sir. I'm just all discombobulated because of the technical diddlies that I've suffered today. It has made me all just... I'm feeling really pressed right now. But that's okay. Come on. There we go. There should be a link out in the chat there for that Voice of America Connect piece. So if you want to check it out, there it is. Anyhow, the McCloskeys had the protesters break into their private property, their gated community, and they felt in fear of their lives, so they went and fetched their firearms. Karen had some really poor gun handling skills with her Jimenez 380. The Ken of the couple, well, He looked like an extra from an 80s action movie with the way he handled his AR. Yes, I'm making fun of them, kind of, their lack of gun handling skills, but whether or not they have the skills or not is irrelevant. They do have the right to own those firearms for defense of themselves. I think maybe they could have done with some better training, because then they would have had a better idea of what they legally can and cannot do, because regardless of whether or not they got the right to protect themselves, you know, I'm not going to dispute that. They do have the right to protect themselves, but I think that they broke Missouri law by brandishing their weapons, pointing them at the crowd. You know, having it at low ready probably would have been a better idea, but the lady was pointing that gun waving that gun all the way around everybody, pointing it at people with their finger on the trigger. You know, that's a no-no. And so, Ghost Tactical says, looked like Ken was trying to be Eddie Van Halen on the AR. Yeah, he sure didn't he? Well, I'm not the only one who thinks they broke Missouri law. This is from the Daily Wire by Ryan Saavedra from July 10th, 2020. Warrant served on St. Louis couple who defended private property. Rifle confiscated. Law enforcement officials in St. Louis have allegedly served a warrant on the St. Louis couple who recently defended their home when a large mob of angry demonstrators allegedly trespassed onto their private property. 5 on Your Side has learned St. Louis police officers executed a search warrant Friday evening at the home of Mark and Patricia McCloskey, the Central West End couple who confronted protesters with weapons in June, KSDK News reported. Sources tell 5 on Your Side police seized one of the weapons, the rifle, from the couple, and they told police their attorney has the pistol seen in photos. Fox News host Shannon Bream confirmed the news in a tweet, writing, breaking, warrant reportedly served on St. Louis couple who stood outside their home with weapons as protesters approached. We're told weapons were seized. We've got the warrant and pictures for you at 11 p.m. Attorney Harmeet K. Dillon responded to the news by tweeting, Missouri is a castle doctrine state, permitted among the broadest latitudes of any state in using even deadly force to protect yourself on your property. This couple used no force despite the imminent threat from a trespassing mob. The seizure of weapons is government overreach. I would disagree. I would say pointing a loaded weapon at somebody is a use of force. It's not quite deadly force, but it is a use of force. But that's my opinion. I'm not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV, nor did I stay at a Holiday Inn. Hell.
Can I disagree with you on that now or later?
Wait till after we're done with the article, then we can have the back and forth on it.
Okay.
The left-wing demonstrators returned to the couple's home last week and were met by private security that was guarding the home. When about 300 protesters returned Friday, holding signs reading Black Lives Matter, period, and no justice, no peace, a more subdued Mark McCloskey could be seen peering out from his balcony while his wife appeared to be shooting video of the marchers on her mobile phone, the New York Post reported. The photos also show private security guards setting up barricades and securing the gate prior to Friday's new demonstration. Mark McCloskey, who guarded his private property with an AR-15, told a local news station following the incident, we were threatened with our lives, threatened with the house being burned down, my office building being burned down, even our dog's life being threatened. It was about as bad as you can get. You know, I really thought it was the storming of the Bastille, that we would be dead and the house would be burned and there was nothing we could do about it. It was a huge and frightening crowd and they broke in the gate and they were coming at us. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kimberly Gardner, a Democrat, claimed that the McCloskeys defending their property was a violent assault and that authorities will use the full power of Missouri law to hold people accountable. Now, I disagree with her there. I don't think it was a violent assault. Albert Watkins, the McCloskeys' attorney, told Fox News that if Kimberly Gardner wants to press charges against 2 attorneys who are protecting their home and their family and themselves on their own property, I'll tell you that it will be nothing short of the proverbial cluster F. The good old Charlie Foxtrot. So there we have it, folks. They're having charges pressed, probably. Definitely had the AR-15 and the Jimenez tooth seized. And we'll see where they go from there. I mean, practicing better muzzle discipline, I think, could have kept them from being charged. But again, that's just my opinion. I guess I could be wrong. Squib, I'm sure you're going to explain in great detail and depth how I am wrong. Please go ahead.
No, I'm going to say that I disagree on principle. As far as the state law, I don't know the state law specifically, so I'm not going to go on that. If they violated the law, and it can be proven that they violated the law, and if that has to be proven because it has to be interpreted in a court of law on whether or not they did or didn't, because the law is not cut and dry, then they'll get their day in court. My thing is the principle. The principle, and I think that there needs to be some sort of law of the land, something at a federal level that trumps state level laws that give you the right to do certain things on your property. They broke into their property. These people were trespassing. These people broke down the gate and came onto the property, despite the fact that there were signs, despite the fact that he came out there without the gun at first and said, "You're on private property, leave." These people, at least one of them pulled the magazine out of his handgun and showed it to him, and he said, "This is for you when we come back." That's a credible threat, in my opinion. They had every right to go out there with their guns, to send the dog after these people, to point their guns at them, maybe even fire a warning shot. Now, legally, can they do that in that state? I don't know. But morally or ethically or on principle, under that circumstance, they're outnumbered. This is an angry mob. They're trespassing. They were politely warned. Even after these people broke down their wrought iron fence, they were still warned without any firearms. And they didn't care. They didn't care at all. So the law, the state may try to fry them, may try to make an example out of them. The state may prosecute them. But as far as principle, what is the point in having property if you can't defend it? And I don't necessarily mean, was the house worth somebody's life? Not necessarily. But look at the size of that crowd. We don't know that they actually could have escaped without being pursued or chased. At a certain point, standing your ground makes a lot more sense than trying to retreat. And it's not for me so much about the cost of their house and all that other stuff. They should have insurance. And even if they don't, or their insurance doesn't cover that.
I was going to say, we've already talked about the fact that most insurance policies don't cover acts of an angry mob.
Buy better insurance. Look, anyhow, and maybe that needs to be the federal government needs to be stepping in there going, insurance companies can't do this. They've got to provide protection. That's what when our government says they want to protect us, that's what they really need to be doing is, on a consumer level, being able to say, if you buy this insurance will cover you in this case or whatever, but not going in there trying to ban guns in the name of safety. But what I'm saying is, if they're found guilty in a court of law, if they're found guilty of violating that state law, that's a separate issue for me. As far as the principle, I think they did the right thing. I think they were justified. Just because I believe it in principle does not mean that it is law. There are people out there, I don't give a shit. They were on their property. These people broke in. I've always had an issue with the fact that somebody could break into my house at 2 a.m. I could shine the light down the stairs. They could point a gun at me. I could point my gun right back at them. I could shoot them dead between the eyes. They're on the floor. I call the police. I've got my gun cleared and off to the side away from where I'm at. My family's huddled in the back. I'm on the phone with 911 saying, yeah, I see them coming up right now. And the police are going to come into guns drawn, get on the ground, start tasing me and yelling at me. And my wife and kids could be there going, that's dad. That's my husband. We live here. This is the guy. I could be in my robe. This other guy could be fully dressed. It's 2 a.m, whatever. And I'm going to be treated like a criminal because I shot this guy dead in my house. I have a problem with that. I just do. I understand that might be the way the law is, or the cops are going to be like, well, we came in and we didn't know what. Are you that stupid, dude? Really? And that's what I mean. It's just, I don't know. I just have a problem with that principle. If we took care of something like that, instead of pissing and moaning about the NFA all the time, we might actually be able to show more often than not the good guy with the gun stops the bad guy with the gun, and the good guy with the gun doesn't have to worry about prosecution. Sure, the bad actors need to be prosecuted. The people that do start the fight, instead of using the gun defensively, they're using it offensively.
Yes, they should be. The people that are out there trying to make a bad name, sure, yes, they should be. These two, even though their gun handling skills sucked or whatever, in my opinion, on principle, they were within their rights. But as far as the state law goes, that's debatable. But it's their property. They pay taxes for that. You know, why do we pay taxes for the property that we reside on, that we work at, you know, that we own, that we lease, that we, if we're not protected from being able to defend it? No taxation without representation, right? Okay, my representation is at that point I was in fear for my life. These people were trespassing, they were warned, and now I've got to protect my family and my property. What's the problem here? There shouldn't be a problem.
Well, I guess what it comes down to is, what is the law in Missouri? Tata is out there, says, being from St. Louis, I'm not aware that any charges have been filed. Kimberly Gardner is an anti-gun and has previously tried to push for a ban on constitutional carry in St. Louis. That being said, I still say that it ain't a good idea to have your gun pointed at somebody that you're not actively planning to shoot.
I'm not encouraging somebody.
Particularly if one finger is on the trigger.
I'm not encouraging somebody to do that. I'm just saying it shouldn't be wrong.
I don't know, Squib. I unless there's an imminent deadly threat, and I didn't see any imminent deadly threats there. Did I see the potential for it? Absolutely. That's why I say having the firearms out, muzzles pointed at the ground, at low ready, whatever, totally appropriate. Pointing it at them, totally inappropriate, because there was no deadly imminent threat.
You're giving legal advice, and I'm talking about changing the law to protect us.
I'm talking about more morality too, Squib. I'm not trying to kill somebody just because I'm scared. If I have to kill somebody, it's going to be because they're trying to kill me, not because I'm terrified because there's a bunch of dudes out there screaming and yelling.
You're outnumbered 100 to 1, and they broke through your gate. They didn't knock on your door. They weren't walking down the sidewalk, on the public sidewalk. They broke down your fucking gate, dude.
And it's property. I don't believe property is worth killing someone over. Now, you retreat to your house if they're starting to light up Molotovs. Open up. I think, and again, I guess it comes down to where you're at as well. You know, maybe in some places that's totally legal, but I don't think the morality is there. I don't think it's right to do that. That's just me. I could be wrong. I don't know. You know, I can tell you that from a legal standpoint, it's not a good idea. From a civil suit standpoint, it's not a good idea. And I can tell you that in Ohio, you'd go to jail for what they did, because what they did isn't covered under Castle Doctrine in Ohio, because Castle Doctrine only extends to your door, does not extend to your property, your curtilage. It does not extend there. In Ohio, you have a duty to retreat, even under Castle Doctrine. You have a duty to try to get the hell out of the house, and you have to show that you are in fear of imminent death or bodily injury. So I don't know. Maybe that's just my thoughts on the matter are a reflex from what I know the law to be in Ohio, and my desire to stay on the good side of it. I don't know. I think that really, in the end, all of us can sit here from the comfort of our chairs and say whatever the hell we want to, but we weren't the people there, right? And I'm glad that I don't have to be one of the triers of the facts in this case. So
the moral of the story is, don't move into a gated community where politicians live.
Well, there's that too. And also, don't elect Democrat anti-gun people to your to public office in your area, like they did. Of course, they probably helped elect. That's the hell of it. They probably helped put that woman in office because they are Democrat supporters. That's the irony of it. You know, the people that they helped elect are trying to hang them up by the heels because they dared to try to defend themselves from the mob.
Yeah, the people that they helped elect are chewing on them right now going, tastes like tofu.
That's good. That's good. You know, they are not the only people who've been chewed up by the left politicians for defending themselves against the mob. Some of you may know the name Mike Strickland. He is a journalist, or was a journalist, in Oregon, who, in much the same situation as the McCloskeys, he was doing some filming at an Antifa slash BLM protest, and he's had run-ins with these folks before where they've attacked him and everything, and he was concealed carrying. They drove him off, and he was trying to leave, and they continued to come to him and charge at him and try to surround him, and he pulled his firearm and backed them away with it. Didn't shoot nobody, but he got arrested. And he got convicted. And now the conviction's been upheld. This is from PJ Media, from by Victoria Taft from April 2nd, 2020. Oh, wow, April? Well, I didn't see this back then, so I guess we're going to go over it now. Oregon court affirms conviction of journalist who pulled gun to stop advancing Antifa mob. Before Ann Coulter, Ben Shapiro, Mila Yiannopoulos, Andy Ngo, and any number of people were bullied off the stage and silenced by the rampaging Antifa mob, there was Mike Strickland. Before most people had ever heard of the far-left group, the Portland videographer was recording the antics, ridiculous utterances, and violent actions of this mob, writing about them and selling his videos to news outlets, some of which went national. Strickland put the videos on his YouTube channel called Laughing at Liberals. He's the first person I've ever heard utter the name Antifa. Strickland had been following the far left for years. He started to watch them after the 2010-2011 Tea Party rallies began attracting leftists such as the International Socialist Organization, who would show up and attempt to drown out the public, and permitted rallies. And the mob was getting bigger and more dangerous. Since 2003, I've been watching the far-left Portland mob, Portland professional protesters, as I dubbed them, go from a collection of Friday at 4 p.m. drum circles to a rougher group of wobblies, anti-war Bush's Hitler protesters, Earth-firsters, ISO types, anti-Israel, pro-PLO America haters, assorted anarchists, monkey wrenchers, and eco and animal terrorist organizations. Many of the usual Portland professional protester groups feature fists on their logos and flags like the good communists and socialists they are. They camped in front of the stores that sold fur and conspired against restaurants selling foie gras, screeching day after day until enough customers were repelled that the legal businesses went under. The city never lifted a finger to help. They took over Portland City Hall, held illegal protests, closed freeways, halted traffic, and plotted terrorist activities. They firebombed SUV sellers, torched ski lodges, cold-cocked people on the streets, set fires, committed acts of vandalism, and engaged, like the continuing criminal enterprise I believe they are, in the doxing of, defaming, and lying about people who dared show them on video and talk about their antics. The city of Portland basically ignored the protesters even when they were under its nose, as was Occupy Portland in 2011 when union-backed protesters commandeered and did millions of dollars in damage to a park in front of City Hall. And now, they're a black-clad, violent mob. Mike Strickland put a mirror up to those people and showed them who they were. They didn't like it. They called him a snitch. They admitted in court that they conspired to get him thrown out of their public protests. And that's where the problem started. In June 2016, at a rally and candlelight vigil for the Orlando terrorist shooting, Strickland was shooting for a client when he was confronted by a group, some of whom knew him, that took offense that he would dare to come to such a solemn occasion. Codswallop. As he tried... Who the hell uses the word codswallop anymore? Well, what the hell are you, Hagrid? As he tried to record, they sought to ruin his video by crowding in front of his camera, screaming, yelling, and talking. They called Strickland, stop me if you've heard this before, a racist and a homophobe. The racist label came from when Strickland put together a series of videos exposing a series of classes at the local community college demonizing white people. Fox News featured them. The homophobe accusation supposedly came from his deigning to attend the Pulse nightclub observance. 1 month later, in July 2016, at a Black Lives Matter Don't Shoot Portland public rally and protest, a mob of Antifa and BLM protesters admitted, in court, that they would get Strickland thrown out of their rally because they didn't want the journalist recording them. Strickland was shooting the event as he usually did with all his equipment, including his properly concealed pistol, a Glock, for which he had a concealed carry license. A mob of Antifa members surrounded him, roughed him up, and then told him, "You need to get the F out of here." Even though Strickland backed away from the thugs in the larger protest, he continued to shoot video. As he was leaving, the mob of masked Antifa thugs ran toward Strickland and tried to surround him. This time he pulled his pistol to back them off. No shots were ever fired. Strickland's finger never came close to the trigger. His gambit worked, however. They backed off, and Strickland got away from the mob, eventually being arrested by the cops. He was released with a citation. Charges against him grew from misdemeanors to 21 counts, 10 of which were felonies, within hours of Portland politicos getting an earful from one of Strickland's favorite targets, an anti-Second Amendment group called Ceasefire Oregon. The politicos also seemed to take on faith the word of one of the conspirators who insisted Strickland must be a racist, even though he knew better. Only a couple of his so-called victims were identified. The rest were unknown and described as having masks over their faces and unidentifiable. For this act of self-defense, in defense of his own First Amendment rights, Strickland was ordered to jail. Though he could have gone to state prison for decades, in the end, Strickland did 40 days in jail. But he was put on 5 years probation, his Second Amendment rights were stripped, and he was ordered to surrender some of his First Amendment rights by being forbidden from practicing journalism and recording Portland's leftist protesters. The mob, courts, and allies had silenced him. Portland area journalist Andy Ngo, who has followed Strickland in filming Antifa, has been assaulted several times by the Antifa. But after seeing Strickland arrested for defending himself, Ngo says he won't defend himself against Antifa's attacks. After he made arguments on Strickland's behalf to the Oregon Court of Appeals in October 2018, attorney Robert Barnes told me that if this can happen in Portland, it can happen anywhere. Right now, if you're in the black bloc, what do you think? I can harass somebody and get them arrested if they try to defend themselves. And then they want people not to defend themselves so that they feel terrified, so that they feel scared, so they feel frightened, so that their behavior can be publicly and privately coerced. And that's the danger. That's why this case is bigger than one person. If this can happen to him here, it can happen to anyone, anywhere, and it means that nobody is safe. And that's why this case is so significant. Barnes has always maintained that the Strickland case has never been a strictly Second Amendment case. He believes it's a First Amendment case. In Portland, if you merely show up armed, you will be arrested, charged with a felony, and banned from public events for disturbing Antifa with your presence. Ask Mike Strickland. He continued about how corrosive ignoring Antifa has been to Portland and beyond. There's a reason the media celebrates Antifa, stays mute about the black bloc, and political patrons in Portland imprisoned Antifa critics rather than lefty violence. They were always heading in this direction once they lost political power, cultural blackmail, and street violence. There's a reason the media... Okay, yeah. Let's see. Barnes says Strickland's case is bigger than one person because if the conviction against him stands, then no one is safe. The battle will be just the beginning of a long, extended battle. If this can happen to him here, it can happen to anyone, anywhere, and it means that nobody is safe. And that's why this case is so significant. Barnes is right about it being a long battle. The Oregon Appeals Court ruled Wednesday that the lower court ruling convicting Strickland stands. He made a prediction of what his appeals court ruling really says about the Oregon justice system. Excuses at the ORDOJ used to justify the jailing of independent reporter Mike Strickland, that the Black Bloc violent anarchist group is part of the protest community of Portland, and that a reporter who is polarizing to the Antifa types should be banned from filming public events. How frightening is that? You can't report on somebody who's protesting? What a load of shit. Barnes told me he's filing a motion for reconsideration by the court and will keep going if he has to. For more on the story, check out other stories, blah, 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 blah. So here's some video from that incident that happened back then.
So this here is a multi-camera compilation video of the
I'm not
attack
going to go
that happened
through all
to me,
this.
because the only one I've been able to find. And yes, there's Ben Carenza, the large guy. Please let me know.
I'm going to get to where they're chasing him off.
Particular day, they decided for whatever reason to not have a presence at the protest. So you can see Carenza ducked out of the scene in the lower right-hand video. And then that's him right along the curb right here in the upper left-hand video. And you can see the Bivens video has now kicked in. So now let's look at the upper left-hand one again. You can... More here. He is now circling around my back. Meanwhile, Carenza has separated from the group. That's him on the curb right there. Meanwhile, I got all these other people right in my face, backing me down. So now Carenza has started off the curb a little bit faster than he was before. You can see Malcolm Chaddock here coming around. You can see that guy there just shed his backpack. Let's watch this again. Look on the lower right here. This guy right here sheds his backpack. Now, looking in the Bivens video here in the upper center, we see how close Malcolm Chaddock is to me, with his arms outstretched towards me. The way around here, now he's coming up on what is at that point my blind side. But because I have high situational awareness, I'm still kind of scanning around. Now we've established that he is approximately 11 feet from me at this particular moment. I had every reason to believe that his 400-pound body, yes, he's literally twice my size, that he was just seconds away from pummeling me into the pavement. And then everybody else, in a mob mentality, already being very aggressive and hostile towards me. Seeing that happen, mob mentality kicks in. I had every reason to believe I was about to be pummeled by several people and robbed of my personal possessions. You may notice that I've had a backpack on me. In my backpack is my computer, extra batteries for my camera stuff. I think I even had another camera or two. Pummel me and rob me of my personal possessions. I have had that happen to me before. I have suffered a legally concealed firearm in self-defense.
Now, see, in this guy's situation, I can see why he did what he did.
And for that, I was the one found guilty of 21 counts. And the thing is that I did not.
I think that was a case of political prosecution, in my opinion. And really, I think that has continued to today with the McCloskeys. It's another instance of where they dared to defend themselves and they're being politically prosecuted. And I think there may be it may be deliberate. Don't know. Hey, Mike, have a good one. Hope you have a good night. You too, JMA. Bob says you pull a firearm, you use it. If he reholstered, so how threatened did he feel? Well, I think that as soon as he pulled the firearm and everybody started backing up, he had no more reason to use the firearm, therefore he put it away. Not all defensive gun uses do end up in a shooting. As a matter of fact, simply displaying the firearm often diffuses the situation. Yes, Squib, I know what you're about to say, but this is an apples and oranges comparison. Because this guy was surrounded. Bob, he was trying to walk off. They wouldn't let him. They were surrounding him. He did pull his gun. He did create that space, and then he left. I don't know. Ro, you're silent. Do you have any opinion about the McCloskeys, the Strickland guy? Do you think there's any relation between why these people were prosecuted?
They were prosecuted because they're gun owners. But in the same frame of mind, if you pull your gun out, you better use it. I mean, I understand some people use it as a deterrent, but I mean, when you pull a firearm and you start pointing it, I mean, you're going to end up like these people. I mean, you either go balls to the wall or you don't do it at all. You know, I don't understand. I kind of get this guy, but again, you're putting yourself in these situations where a gun has to be used in a certain type of way, whether it's to get you out of a situation or to prevent a situation. I mean, with the couple, those people are just complete idiots. Why are you going to come out of your house? If there's a mob in front of my house right now, definitely not coming out of my house. And I'm definitely just going to watch and see what they do. Nobody was threatening them as far as burning their house down as they claim. Now this guy, I'm supposed to feel sorry for him because we all know how these people act. We've seen them, we've watched them, we've witnessed what they do. So you're going to put yourself into that spot. Granted, that's his job. I mean, he gets paid for it. But you should understand, when you go to these things, bad things happen at them. I mean, you got to carry a gun when you go to these things, unfortunately. But if you're going to start pulling your gun and just pointing it at people, I was always taught, if your gun comes out, you use your firearm. And the only reason why the gun should come out is if it's the do or die, man. It's the situation. I mean, pulling your gun out and pointing at people because you think something might happen, this is the end results of this stuff. Now, on the other end, you know, it's not fair, but look at the times we live in. This isn't 20 years ago. This isn't 10 years ago. This is right now where the hype is protesting, beatings, and firearms being pulled for no reason, just like the people in Michigan. As a gun owner, you should really understand about how it is to carry yourself in public with a firearm. And unfortunately, these people seem not to understand that. And I mean, does it reflect that bad on gun owners? Yes, it does. But in essence, this is why we say, go take a class. Go understand what it means to carry a firearm in public. All the classes that I've taken in my area, this is just strictly my area. I'm not talking about somewhere halfway across the country. The instructor said, when you pull that firearm, you better be determined to use that firearm. And if you make the mistake in the situation, you're going to have to live with that mistake in that situation. So, I mean, those two people, the dude and that chick, man, that everybody makes fun of, they're complete morons. Yeah, somebody broke down their gate, but that's just breaking down a gate. You don't have to come out and start confronting people. I mean, what would have happened if they stayed in their house and never engaged those people? I bet you they would have just walked by their house. I mean, unless they had something ready to go and to throw through their windows and burn their house down, or they started shooting in their direction. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to go out there, you're going to incite these people, and that's what you get. With this gentleman, you went to somewhere where you knew this guy seems to have all the facts on Antifa. He knew what they were about. He knew what they were capable of, but he still is putting himself in that kind of situation. Everybody's got to make $1 out of 15 cents, but this is a prime example of what happens when you take these kinds of actions, that you're putting your livelihood on the line. And for this dude, you're putting your livelihood on the line for a couple of pictures. I personally try not to put myself in these situations. And, you know, you reap what you sow. But again, every class that I've taken in my specific area, the instructor has said, if your gun comes out of your holster, you should use that gun. It should never come out of that holster to be brandished or to do what some of these other people have done. You know, unless they are physically beating you, then that's a whole different situation. You know, but again, laws change from state to state. That's why it's so important to look at these aspects of your laws in your state, in your county, in your city, all of that jazz, because you're going to put yourself in a situation that these people put themselves in. Does it suck? Yes, because then it reflects bad on us. I mean, how many times have we been, you know, engaged in, well, you're just a crazy gun nut, like the people that you see on the internet. You just showed a video of yourself explaining there's these types of people out there, but they don't reflect us. And I see a lot of people, you know, constantly, oh, these people have piss poor skills, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you're not looking at the full situation, that this is going to reflect on us. The more we go out and we do our shows, or, you know, we you know, tell people about getting training and how important that is, you're going to run into these instances. And when you go to these classes will really shed light on what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And these people are in the positions of what they shouldn't have done. And I have gotten in trouble in my life, and I have, you know, suffered the consequences for my actions. But yet I have put myself in those situations to receive those consequences.
Yeah, you know, I think that as responsible firearms owners, it is incumbent on us to know the circumstances under which we are legally and ethically allowed to use that firearm.
I want to add this. And another aspect of this, if we can't police our own, the liberals, the gun grabbers, the politicians will do it for us. And we've seen it time and time again with anti-gun legislation, with the rhetoric, which you see in these situations when they get put on national news, and the national news people, you know, deify us for owning a tool. So it's incumbent upon us to really kind of, you know, quell the storm that is to be, which is all the nasty rhetoric. And if we can't police ourselves, and we can't get this information out, and we can't teach people the ins and outs, or at least get them to go to a class so they can be taught the ins and outs, and we can't police ourselves, we will continue to be beaten over the head with legislation and rhetoric.
Yeah, I think that I've said before, and I'll say it again, I don't believe that training should be mandatory to own a firearm, but it's sure a good idea. Going out there and not knowing what to do is, well, it's kind of dumb. Speaking of kind of dumb.
And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
Our first contestant in Moron of the Week. This is a story from the New York Post by Yaron Steinbuch from July 10th, 2020. CEO brandishes gun at Hispanic couple lost on his property. The CEO of an energy company chased down and held a Hispanic couple at gunpoint after they accidentally drove on his property in an affluent neighborhood in Colorado on their way to a wedding rehearsal dinner, according to a report. Chris Ochoa, 26, said in a Facebook post that he and his girlfriend were following GPS directions to his friend's event on June 12th when they found themselves at the swanky Elk Canyon Estates in Sedalia, 9 News reported. He performed a U-turn to get back on track, but a large red truck pulled in front of me and cut me off, blocking the road, Ochoa recounted. The driver, Paul Favret, immediately got out of his truck and pointed a gun at us. He then ran to my driver's side window, which was down, and continued to point the gun and yell that he was going to blow our head off, he wrote. Apparently, the U-turn that I had made was in his driveway, and he wasn't happy about it. During this time, we had our hands up, pleading that we were only looking for my friend's wedding party and that we were not doing anything wrong. Ochoa said he apologized for entering Favret's property, but said the man kept pointing the weapon at him. My girlfriend was able to take a few pictures as he moved towards the front of our rental car, and she called 911 as well because we felt in danger as he kept pointing the gun at our faces and continued to tell us how much he wanted to kill us, he said. In a statement to police, Ochoa wrote, "I stayed as still as possible because I knew he was in a rage, I knew he could shoot any time, and I knew I could die at any time based on how he was reacting. As a minority, I felt in danger." He said in his Facebook account that he later found out there had been 2 other vehicles that ended up at the same house due to faulty GPS directions, yet he and his girlfriend were the only ones held at gunpoint. We were also the only minorities in the entire neighborhood where this occurred, he said. As I notified the officers that I wanted to press charges for being assaulted, the owner of the house where the wedding venue is being held issued a threat, stating, "If you press charges and disrupt my community, I'll cancel the wedding," he wrote. I was in disbelief that she put me in the position of choosing between ruining my best friend's wedding or doing what is right. I had no choice but to walk away. It amazed me that she was willing to cancel her own nephew's wedding because of this. The Douglas County District Attorney's Office has filed 5 charges against Favret, CEO of Resource Energy, including 2 felony menacing counts and 3 misdemeanors, 9 News reported. The Facebook post in question does not portray an accurate version of the events. However, I deeply regret my actions that day, Favret told the outlet through a company rep. He also insisted that he could not distinguish the couple's race. I had no way of knowing the identities of the individuals in the vehicle, Favret told 9 News. I just saw the unknown vehicle very close to the home at a time when we were not expecting any visitors, and our property is clearly marked with our address and is about a half mile from their destination. He added that some intruders on his property had been engaged in illegal elk hunting. Favret at first denied to police that he pulled out his gun during the incident, but when shown the images captured by Ochoa's girlfriend, he said he didn't remember doing so and told officers he was on pain medication. Ochoa, who identifies as Mexican-American, asked the Douglas County Sheriff's Office to reopen the case, adding that the incident scared him enough that he skipped the wedding in the same neighborhood the next day. Let's see what this says. Yes, after the ad in 3 seconds.
It's one of those moments where a drive in an unknown neighborhood got a bit confusing, even with GPS. Chris Ochoa and his girlfriend were in a rental car looking for a friend's wedding rehearsal within the wealthy Elk Ridge Estates, about 30 miles south of Denver. They were using Apple Maps in a rural area near Sedalia. GPS took them to this address, so he pulled into the driveway. When he didn't see any cars, he turned around thinking he got the wrong house. An alarm went off and security cameras caught the image of Ochoa's car. The homeowner jumped into his truck, chased the couple down, and cut them off. That's when this man pulled out a gun and, according to Ochoa, pointed it at his head. "I will effing shoot you. I will blow your head off," the man with the gun is quoted in an incident report. The Douglas County Sheriff's Department responded after Ochoa called 911. "I stayed as still as possible because I knew he was in a rage. I knew he could shoot any time," Ochoa wrote in a statement. The man, Paul Favret, the CEO of Resource Energy, initially told deputies he never pulled out the gun. Ochoa's girlfriend snapped these photos, and when a deputy showed them to Favret, his story changed. He suddenly didn't remember doing this, blaming potent painkillers following surgery, according to the report. Ochoa feels this was racially motivated, writing, "As a minority, I felt in danger." He initially didn't press charges because the host of the wedding threatened to cancel if he did. But Choa changed his mind after posting about it on Facebook. Through a spokesperson, Favre said, "I had no way of knowing the identities of the individuals in the vehicle, and the Facebook post in question does not portray an accurate version of the events. However, I deeply regret my actions that day." That's a case he'll likely have to make in criminal court. Jeremy Hohola, 9 News.
What the hell is it with these rich people buying piece of shit guns? You know, the cul-de-sac Karen had a freaking Jimenez 380. This dude has a Sky CPX2, a teal Sky CPX2, mind you. What the hell? So, Panicking Paul, you're our first contestant and Moron of the Week. Next up, boy, this one's pretty awesome too. This is from Q13Fox.com. A sign, let's see, it doesn't say who it's by, but it says, Molly Moon's ice cream bans police with guns. Officers respond. So let's watch this. As soon as this ad is over.
A sign at a popular Seattle ice cream shop is sending a loud message to local police officers. Molly Moon's Ice Cream on Capitol Hill posted that sign, telling officers if you're armed, you're not welcome inside their business.
Matt Lorch is there with more from the owner who's taking heat and police who are offended by it.
So here's the sign right here. You can see it's directed right at police officers saying if you have a gun, don't bother coming inside.
This is like my house. This is private property.
That's Molly Moon Neitzel, who says her new sign to police has her getting threats on social media while she defends the decision to put it up.
People see it as anti-police. Are you anti-police?
I am anti the current police system. Yeah, I think we need major police reform.
Do you understand that that may make a lot of people upset?
I do.
She says some of her employees felt intimidated by police after they cleared out the nearby Capitol Hill organized protest zone last week, and after a patron paid $500 so officers could come in and get ice cream for free.
We had, I don't know, a few hundred come in, packing their guns, and it was making my employees feel uncomfortable.
Customer Carl Smith heard about the sign. He showed up to give her a hug and drop $500 of his own.
Anyone who comes to Molly Moon's today, ice cream's on me. And I just really support what she's doing.
Still, not everyone is joining the ice cream party.
You know, we're human beings, and we do this job. We took an oath of service to serve at the will of the community. And I don't think that the reasonable community of city of Seattle support a business saying, we allow police, but they can't be armed.
Mike Solon, president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild, says the sign is political pandering that could backfire.
Have a conversation, and maybe we can enjoy ice cream at your great business, but we're going to do it while armed.
You know what is not my job as an ice cream maker? The rules of when police officers can have their guns and when they can put them down. And I don't want that to be my job. I don't care about that. But if they want to come into my shop and buy ice cream without a gun, they are welcome.
A message dividing a community that really is a sign of the times.
Molly Moon says business is down more than 50% this year due to the pandemic. She actually knows that the sign may alienate more customers and says it's up to the individual employees to ask police officers who are armed to leave. On Capitol Hill in Seattle, Matt Lorch, Q13 News.
I have to wonder what response time would be to a robbery call to that location now. Bet it's gonna be a long one. So Molly Moonbat, you are the next contestant on Moron of the Week. But wait, there is one more. Yes, good old Beto O'Cuck has his lips running yet again. Let's see what Beto has to say.
In some way, we have tacitly accepted this historic, tragic level of gun violence in America that continues to rise. And we saw that just over the weekend in many American cities. It's that same kind of death cult mentality that asks us to accept 1/4, 25% of the world's COVID cases, 1/4, 25% of the world's COVID deaths, though we represent only 4% of the globe's population. That is absolutely unacceptable. And everything that you just read from her is absolutely ridiculous and on its face stupid. We should be outraged and angered and demanding more from our leaders. And that's why I took the step within the last couple of days of asking Governor Abbott to resign. He's clearly not up. In some way, we have tacitly accepted this historic, tragic level of gun violence in America that continues to rise. And we saw that just over the weekend in many American cities. It's that same kind of death cult.
Yes, Cuck. And for those who can't make sense of what he's saying, he's blaming murder rates in U.S. cities on Republicans' death cult mentality. What he's not saying is these murder rates in these U.S. cities are U.S. cities that have been run for decades, not by Republicans, but by, can anybody tell me what's running them? Democrats. So Democrat-run cities are having skyrocketing murder rates because of Republicans. Well, okay, sure. That makes sense to me. So Beta Okuk, you are the third contestant in Moron of the Week. And as always, with his honorary spot is Uncle Touchy himself, Joe Biden. So, there we have it, folks. We got Panicking Paul, Molly Moonbat, Beta Okuk, and Joe Biden, Uncle Touchy. So, Squib, which one do you think deserves the title of Moron of the Week this week?
Well, first I thought I'd go ahead and give it to the cul-de-sac guy, but then the victim pulled the race card, so now I don't even care about the victim. And then, Beto kind of ticked me off because he's like, we got 25% of the COVID cases and 25% of the COVID deaths. Maybe that's because we're doing 100% of the false reporting of numbers of COVID cases and deaths.
It could be.
So, yeah. So I guess I'm going to have to give it to Ice Cream Shop Lady because in my state, business owners have to enforce the governor's rule about wearing masks. They have no choice. But in Washington State, business owners can tell cops to go buzz off. Yeah, Ice Cream Lady can have it.
Molly Moonbat from Squib. Roll call. Who do you feel deserves the title of Moron of the Week this week?
Ice Cream Lady.
Molly Moonbat gets a second vote. And joining us late, we got C3. I can only assume that is Calaveras 32 Special, the Tactical Pickle himself. How you doing, sir?
Guilty as charged. That's for, I'm on my way home because I just picked up my new to me Mosin that I got from Travis P11.
Awesome.
So that's for, obviously, you guys are on Moron of the Week. I must have missed a good portion of the show when I didn't have cell service.
Yeah. Did you catch the 3 offers for Moron, or are you abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
All right, that's an abstention from the Tactical Pickle. So that leaves it up to you folks out there in the chat. For those of you who don't know what we're doing here, well, you heard the stories. You heard me tell why these people are in the running for Moron of the Week. Now is where you vote. Go ahead and tell me out there in the chat. You can only vote one time, unlike Chicagoans, and you have to be alive to do it and present. So go ahead and tell me, who do you think should be Moron of the Week? Panicking Paul, Molly Moonbat, Beta Okuk, or Joe Biden? Let's go out there. Let's see. Bob says the CEO is the biggest moron amidst the painkillers and gun wielding. So Panicking Paul. G23 says Ice Cream Lady. M. Gabriel says Ice Cream. DM Foss says Joe Biden. Let's see. Where am I at? Ice Cream Lady. DM Foss says Joe Biden. Jason Stewart says Molly Moonbat, the Ice Cream Queen. Defense Dad says the same. Armament and Axes says ice cream. Midnight Range says pickle. So, G, from all that, I'm guessing you vote for Molly Moonbat. Philo says Biden. Buzzkill WR says, can't they all just get it? No. No participation trophies here. There's one clear winner in this contest.
Actually, rather than abstain, I think I'd rather vote. I think I would rather vote for Midnight.
Okay. So your votes cancel each other out. So let's see. Philo Biden, Buzzkill, can't they all just get it? Southpaw says ice cream. M. Gabriel wants to know, can his dog vote? No, we're not in Chicago, and this is not a Democrat primary. Scott P79 says beta. Anybody else out there? We got 25 people watching. So far, we got 9 for Molly Moonbat, 1 for Panic Paul, 1 for beta, and 2 for Joe Biden. And Midnight Range says you're a jerk, Pickle. Okay, so I must retract one of those votes for Molly. It was miscounted. Beta O'Cuck gets G's vote. Totally not the ATF, says Biden. Right now we got 8 for Molly Moonbat, 1 for Panic Paul, 2 for Beta O'Cuck, and 3 for Biden. Well, folks, I'm going to go ahead and just call this one. Molly Moonbat from the ice cream shop, you are officially the moron of the week.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.
All right, and I still say I should do an intro for this next part. Those of you who've been watching the show for a while know what's coming up now that we've done the Moron of the Week. We have but one more thing to do before we close up shop tonight, and that is Roll Call 219's favorite segment, Self-Defense Shoutouts. For those of you who've never never seen the show or have never stuck around to the end, Self-Defense Shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy has won the room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It is, in fact, where I'm reveling that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to prevent the bad guy from making him do the same. So, yes, here we go with our first self-defense shout-out. This one is from WTSP.com. Let's see, is there a byline? No, there's no byline. It is from July 10th, 2020. 3 armed men broke into a gun enthusiast's home. The sheriff says he shot them one by one. Wesley Chapel, Florida. An armed homeowner shot 3 men with guns who broke into his home, killing 2 of them and wounding the 3rd. It happened early Friday morning in Wesley Chapel. Deputies were dispatched at 12:43 a.m. Pasco County Sheriff Chris Nocco said the man was home alone playing video games when he heard glass shatter toward the back of his house. The homeowner grabbed a gun and began walking down his hallway where he saw an armed intruder dressed in dark clothing and wearing a mask. Nocco explained. The homeowner shot and killed the first intruder and then took out the second one, who was right behind the first. At some point, one of the 3 intruders managed to fire a gun, but the homeowner was able to shoot him too before his gun jammed. When the homeowner's gun jammed, he went to grab another one. At that moment, the 3rd intruder managed to get up and run away, but a neighbor stopped him in his tracks and held him at gunpoint outside until Pasco County deputies arrived. Authorities say the 19-year-old surviving intruder was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. He is being charged with 2 counts of second-degree homicide and 1 count of home invasion robbery. He has been identified as Jeremiah Trammell. He was hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. He is accountable for the deaths because it was during the commission of a felony that he was involved in that those 2 people died, Sheriff Nocco said. According to Nocco, Trammell has previous charges on his record, including a battery arrest. Investigators say the other 2 intruders had records too. These 2 individuals have very violent criminal histories. Extremely violent, Nocco said. Those two intruders have been identified by the Pasco County Sheriff's Office as Luis Casado and Kyle Durham. Both men were 21. As for what led up to the shooting, the homeowner told law enforcement that he was a gun enthusiast who posts pictures of his firearms to social media. So, he believes his house was targeted. We believe there was a relationship, there was some type of known entity between the victim and the suspects, so this is not a totally random situation. This is an isolated, targeted situation, Nako said. The case is still under investigation. Next up, this is from 12news.com. 2 dead, 1 arrested after fatal armed robbery at Scottsdale convenience store. Scottsdale, Arizona. 2 people, a suspected armed robber and an innocent bystander, are dead after an early morning robbery at a Circle K in Scottsdale on Friday, police said. The suspected robber has been identified as 38-year-old Robert Blackwater, the Scottsdale Police Department said. Scottsdale police responded to the Circle K at Indian School Road and 82nd Street in the early hours of Friday morning. Investigators say Blackwater held up the Circle K and shot at the clerk. The clerk ran out of the back of the store and was not hurt. During the robbery, 35-year-old Joseph Toki walked into the store and was shot by Blackwater. Toki died due to his wounds, according to police. After shooting Toki, Blackwater reportedly ran out of the store and fired several rounds at another bystander, hitting him. The bystander pulled a gun and shot back at Blackwater. They exchanged fire. Blackwater was killed and the bystander was wounded. The bystander was taken to the hospital. Evidence at the scene showed that there was a second suspect waiting in a vehicle for Blackwater around the side of the business, police said. The suspect fled the scene on foot after the shooting, but was later arrested and identified as 32-year-old Brian Christopher Lee Washington. We've had a pretty rough evening this evening in Scottsdale, Sergeant Ben Hoster of the Scottsdale Police Department said. Blackwater was allegedly connected to 2 other armed robberies in the valley that took place Thursday night and Friday morning. Investigators say a man matching Blackwater's description robbed a Circle K near Loop 101 and Shea Boulevard at 11:45 p.m. on Thursday. The other robbery was at the Circle K on I would assume that's North Country Club Drive and West McClellan Road in Mesa at 2:15 a.m. Blackwater's description from witnesses and fired rounds found that the 2 previous scenes were consistent with the evidence found at the 3rd scene, police say. No injuries were reported at either of the 2 previous scenes. The investigation is ongoing. Next up, we have from RestonNow.com by Fatima Wasim, July 11, 2020. Updated, Reston resident shoots and kills suspected intruder. A Reston resident shot and killed a suspected intruder late Friday night, according to police. Daniel Matheson, 29, of Reston, was killed in the incident, which happened in an apartment community on the 12,000 block of Starboard Drive. The tenant found Matheson standing in his doorway with a firearm, pointing in his direction, according to the Fairfax County Police Department. He shot the 29-year-old in the chest. Matheson was pronounced dead at a local hospital. Police do not believe the 2 men knew each other. Detectives continue to conduct interviews and process evidence. The Office of the Commonwealth's Attorney will determine if charges will be placed. And last but most certainly not least, this is from July 3rd, 2020. Intruder shot and killed breaking into Galveston home, police say. This is from ABC13.com. Galveston, Texas, KTRK. 1 person is dead following a Thursday night home invasion in the Galveston Island neighborhood. The incident happened just after 11 o'clock p.m. on Darcy Street near 103rd Street. Police say a resident reported that an intruder had been shot while breaking through a window of a home. Crews arrived to find 1 person dead at the scene. It is unclear if anyone else was involved. So there you have it, folks. Despite what the mainstream legacy news media would have you believe, the good guy with the gun can and does stop the bad guy with the gun all the time. And on that note, it's time to roll up the sidewalks and put away the awnings and sweep the floors and pick up the chairs, folks. We are done. Thank you for sticking around and watching this special catch-up edition on Sunday night of The Right of the People. Speaking of thanks, I'd like to thank my esteemed panel and let them do their thing and give some plugs and shout-outs and whatever it is they want to say. Squib, Anything you want to plug? Any words of wisdom you want to leave us with, sir?
Good night.
And a good night to you then. Roll call. Where can people find you? What would you like to say?
Yeah, people can find me on the YouTube at Roll Call 219. You can find me on Instagram at Roll Call 219. Gunstreamer's still up and moving. You can find me over there at Roll Call 219. Facebook is canceled right now. I'm suspended for 3 days.
What'd you do?
They said I was bullying. And which I wasn't. It's just people, when they get called out for their BS, you know, they get offended by it, and then they report you after, you know, after you say whatever you're going to say. So it won't be on Facebook for 3 days again. So you can just zip over to the YouTube channel and then the Instagrams. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share all your favorite gun content all over the interwebs. And I'd like to thank Budget again for having me on the show tonight. It's a great show. I hope everybody had enjoyed it tonight. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, joining us late was Calaveras 32 Special, the tactical pickle himself. What do you have for us this evening? Any words of wisdom? Anything that you want to plug?
That's for just everyone else on this panel. This is fantastic content. If you haven't checked them out, I encourage you to do so. If you want to know where to find me, calaveras32special.com. There's links to all of my stuff. That's easier than me trying to list them off. Other than that, appreciate everyone that came to listen to to this particular chat. And look forward to the next one as always.
Hey, you are always welcome here, sir. Those of you who are here, hey, you could have been doing anything tonight, man, but you've been here. Some of you even stuck around through the horrific technical difficulties that happened, and boy, that was just terrible. Speaking of just terrible, in a little bit, there's going to be a show over on Midnight Range TM's channel called The Closer. I just chucked a link out there in the chat. Whoosh. So go ahead and check that out later. And, yeah. Remember, folks, we got them trying to ban ghost guns. Not just ghost guns, quote unquote, but the machinery to make them. What they mean by ghost guns is anything that you make at home. They don't want you to be able to do that. They wish to curtail your freedom. What do you think about that? Do you like that? If not, tell your Congress critter and elected representative what you think. Send them a snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, smoke signals, semaphore, heliograph, bicycle messengers, carrier pigeons, tom-tom messages, anything that you have to do to let them know what you think, and never, ever, ever give up the fight. I'll see you guys on the next one.